Hi.
Hi, I'm Mateusz from Noctiluca. Pleasure to be here.
So we're going to check out your presentation right here. You're talking about a new innovation that you're doing, right?
Absolutely. We are a technical company dealing with organic chemistry, but at the end of the day, what we're aspiring to do is to make displays and display technology better. So every decade or so, there is a technological leap, and you as a person who is following all the trends are more aware of it than myself, that every decade or so there is a switch between different technologies. We remember all this, old TVs, the CRT TVs went to plasma LCD, and now LCDs are phasing out for the benefit of OLEDs. They've already taken over smartphones. They're moving into TVs, and hopefully in 10 years we'll see them flexible, transparent, and almost not noticeable for in everyday life, but there will be everywhere for sure.
So what does it mean when you talk about 2030 OLED?
So if you think about the technology, and if you think about how the display industry is changing, you can see certain trends. And if you have a look at the slide number 6 in the presentation that I've sent you, you'll be able to see that the whole market itself is shifting away and growing. Actually, it's a representation of OLED market is moving away from LCD to OLED. And today, because of a certain limitations of OLEDs, they have penetrated certain aspects of this market, of this users, let's say. So OLEDs are everywhere when it comes to smartphones. They're quite used in different wearables, but there are certain limitations that they haven't overcome yet, and they haven't populated that much. The TVs, it's growing, but definitely not as laptops and monitors. And this is the shift that we're seeing, and the trends on top of that is that the devices are becoming less and less visible and more embedded into our everyday life. So of course we will see, and we're already seeing, more transparent, more flexible devices. And what we are doing as Noctiluca, we are providing the next generation OLED materials, so building blocks for the OLED screens to become more energy efficient, but also more flexible and transparent. And if you look at the slide that I've sent you, the number 6, you can see that right now the screens are using materials of first and second generation, but there's a underlying change happening, or will happen in any time now, to third and fourth generation. Today's devices have a very important problem with in its structure. Every OLED is like a stack of different layers of materials. It's like a sandwich, if you will. And one of the layers of the sandwich is emitter. Now, emitter is the chemical compound in the form of powder that when you apply electricity to it, it glows. And this is what we deal with. And today, emitters are fairly inefficient, and especially in blue light, that represents around 70% of light emission. Now, if you turn off the lights in a room where a TV is on, you'll see the blue light, right? So it's fairly understandable that blue light is responsible for most of the light emission, but not many of us are aware that the technology behind this emitter, this chemical compound that emits blue light, is stuck in year like 20 years ago, and there hasn't been much innovation in the molecule itself. And Now, some of the other colors that are being used in the screens today have other issues, like a use of heavy metals, like iridium or platinum, that of course mean that these devices or these materials for device creation are fairly costly, but also you probably have seen in different devices, different displays, the burn-in effect. So the logo station that is burning in the corner of your screen and it's annoying you. And this is actually why this technology, this OLED technology, hasn't populated laptops and monitors that much. Because when we use text editors or any type of spreadsheet, usually the grid is fairly rigid. It's displayed on the screen for a long time, and this burn-in effect in laptops is much more acute. That's why their OLEDs with today's technology are not very much using the OLED screens. The burn-in effect there is much more acute, and in general, the lack of blue emitter. This is the biggest issue with the current generation. So the emitters, the materials that we are bringing to the market, take care of all the issues from the past. They are fully organic, so there are no heavy metals. There is no burn-in or very limited burn-in effect, and much more energy efficient, and so on and so forth. But moreover, and this is perhaps turning back to the question about OLEDs of 2030, these emitters, these molecules are easily implementable in current OLED technology. So all the production facilities don't have to be changed. You just switch the type of material that they're using. But on top of that, this new technology enables printed electronics, so printed OLED screens, transparent electronics, and flexible electronics as well, because this is sort of intertwined in there. Yes.
So maybe we can go through your presentation screen, where you can talk about some of the things you
So let me perhaps start with where we're coming from. So we are a third and fourth generation OLED emitter producer. Since the company itself is fairly young, we are built on the back of a larger organization, Syntax Technologies, which we've been a spin-off 2 years ago. But this organization has been working as a chemical CRO for different international clients for over a decade. And today we have a dedicated team to developing of this product dedicated to OLED market. And you are probably fairly knowledgeable about the Polish science and technology background. Our STEM education is fantastic when you look at different comparisons between different countries. And you might remember some of the scientists from Polish history, Nicolaus Copernicus, Marie Curie Skłodowska, but probably the most important one is Aleksander Jabłoński. So Mr. Jabłoński was a professor at Toruń, the home city where Noctiluca is born, and at which university he worked. And he is a forefather of modern optoelectronics. And following examples of these great scientists, we've built a fantastic R&D team here in Poland. And today, we're still based in Poland, in European Union. As I mentioned, we are focused on high-performance materials for OLED displays. And so far, we've been able to build quite a network around us, both on the commercial side with different international partners, but above all, we've coupled with many technical experts and leaders in that space. I've already told you a little bit more about the changes that the display industry is seeing. Maybe one more thing here to add is not only that the display industry is changing, but also on top of it, there is a lighting aspect to OLEDs. Today, OLEDs are confided in smartphones and these wearables and on monitors. But once they break the cost barrier, there is nothing stopping them from taking over the lighting market, and that in itself is a very promising and exciting opportunity and technology.
How do you help in getting that cost barrier threshold passed? Are you part of the future of that, of helping to get the cost down?
Absolutely. This is where we believe we can be part of the solution. As I mentioned before, one of the issues with current materials is that they use heavy metals, and these heavy metals include iridium and platinum. These are very expensive type of materials. The new generation of materials are fully organic. Therefore, they're fairly cheap when it comes to the cost of substrates. So this is one thing. But going even further, right now the production process of most of the devices, the OLED devices, is done in under process that is called physical vapor deposition, so PVD, and the manufacturing plant needed to that uses that process to build, for example, OLED smartphone displays costs billions of dollars. I'm not saying it's not millions, it's billions. While the new developments and we're part of it will enable printed OLED screens or at least lighting applications, which means that capex or machinery needed for printing OLED screens is in the range of millions of dollars, not billions. So this probably once we get to that point, has a potential to democratize access to OLED technology. Today, most of the production is done in Asia and with 2 or 3 large players. And once we can get the inkjet printed revolution happening with OLED screens, this definitely will be a game changer. And I'm not afraid to use that word. I believe we are pioneers when it comes to providing materials for inkjet printed displays in the OLED world.
One of the coolest things to see at the SID Display Week events is those few kind of like prototypes that are being shown where, for example, BOE or some other companies, CSOT, they're showing these prototype huge printed OLED TVs and saying that they will eventually be able to do them at $100 per meter or something like that. And so you're part of that game.
Absolutely. This is where there is a heart of this is the heart of our innovation. We bring to the market materials that enable all the other processes to go that way. Yes, absolutely. Of course, to bring those devices to this price point that you've mentioned, it requires innovation in both process, equipment, not only materials. But when it comes to materials, I would say we're ready to support any type of project when it comes to bringing such a prototype to the market.
So there's a couple of comments. One is from D. Fragler asking, OLED and car front window, or dynamic lighting of paintings in galleries?
This
Can be possible.
It's absolutely doable. It's possible. You know, it seems like a futuristic vision, or like using another Polish probably invention, the cyberpunk vision of the world. But it's here. Like you've seen the prototypes. Now the question is about the price point, and once this technology is everywhere in numerous production facilities, it's going to happen. Today, the best car manufacturers are already using OLED lights and information panels, and this game will only go further. There is absolutely no reason to believe that LCD screens will stay with us. Every major display manufacturer is actually closing down or simply not investing any further in LCD technology. They're only expanding into OLEDs.
So maybe if I switch over to your video, maybe you can. Sorry, there's just one more comment here. Thanks for the answer. I think the price of OLED should go down as it becoming more popular. That's one of the.
It's always a market play. Today, as I mentioned, OLEDs are in high-end TVs and in smartphones, and they are in smartphones almost everywhere. But think about what happens when you make a phone call. The screen goes dark almost immediately, and this is because of the energy inefficiencies that I've mentioned to you. With new generation of emitters, you can actually jump through some of the hoops over there. Okay, go ahead with the video.
So I'll play the video with the sound, right? So we can hear the sound from the video, and then after you can comment on it, right?
Absolutely. So,
or you can even talk on top. You can talk
yeah,
during the video if you want.
Let me give you a short introduction. This video is a technical description on what's happening on the molecular level in different generations of emitters. So the first two that will be mentioned in the video are already deployed in the market, and the ones that we are developing will be mentioned at the end. And you'll see where the energy efficiency comes from. Okay.
So by default, you'll be muted during the video, but you can unmute yourself, and I think you can talk. All right, let's do it like this, and I'll start it from the beginning in full screen.
Generation. Here you look at the mechanisms of operation of the emitters of each generation. Here you have the first generation emitters acting on the basis of the fluorescence mechanism. In the emission layer, an electron meets a hole and they recombine, exciting the molecule of emitter. One of the four molecules excites to a singlet state from which it can return to a singlet ground state by emitting a quantum of light. The other three molecules, excited to the triplet state, are stuck at this level, unable to emit light, so they slowly lose their excitation energy. The second generation of emitters acts according to the phosphorescence mechanism. This generation can emit light from the triplet states, thanks to two effects called inter-system crossing and spin-orbit coupling. These effects are available only for emitters containing heavy metals, but allows to utilize all excited molecules. And finally, the TADF mechanism, which also uses all excited molecules, but from the singlet state. The crucial factor for emitters acting on the basis of the TADF mechanism is the small energy difference between excited singlet and triplet states. Normally, the energy difference between these two excited states for organic molecules is about half of an electron volt. But for the TADF emitter, this difference must not be greater than 1/10 of an electron volt. And again, the hole and the electron recombine, exciting the emitter molecules. The molecules, excited to singlet state, can easily lose their energy by light emission. This is prompt emission. The molecules, excited to triplet state, can, thanks to a low energy difference between states, go to the singlet state and also emit light. This component of emission is called delayed fluorescence.
Okay, so that was a fairly technical explanation of what's happening, but at the end of the day, just please remember the first generation of emitters is very energy inefficient. Second generation of emitters achieves 100% of energy efficiency, but at the cost of using heavy metals to do it. What we are bringing to the market is the top quality, top energy efficiency without the compromise of having to use expensive and also difficult to recycle heavy metals.
So the TADF stands for thermally activated delayed fluorescence, right?
Yes,
and
exactly.
It's been part of the industry for a long time.
So the phenomenon itself has been discovered probably around the time that the gentleman who founded Syntax Technologies have started playing with it. So around a decade ago or a little bit more, but getting it from a whiteboard to the market, it's quite a long process. Today, there is only one company that's been able to show only one use case for the third generation emitters being used in a device. Hopefully, we will be able to show you, if you have us again sometime early next year, we'll be probably able to show you a demo of a product with this new generation of emitters being used.
So this is also a more clean alternative, maybe even revolution to existing manufacturing methods?
Yes and no. Because yes, on the material side of the emissive layer, so what we could have done to be it more green, then yes. But please remember that OLED screens are not only the emitter layers, they're around depending on different manufacturers, between 15 to 20 layers. So we are fixing just one of the layers, but it's a step in the right direction. Yeah.
So how long have you been talking about this?
So the company is a little bit more than 2 years old, but the technology behind it, as I mentioned, has been like a decade in making. And because there are, as I mentioned, these dozen of layers that you have to optimize in the device itself, the R&D process is fairly long. You have so many feedback loops, because once you change something on one layer, there has to be another change on another layer, and so on and so forth. So the R&D process between bringing the new material to the manufacturer to seeing the device with the new technology is like 2 years. But we're in that game, so it's coming. Be patient.
So do you have a lot of interactions with the display makers, the display industry? Are you part of the SID Display Week kind of ecosystem?
Yes, absolutely. So there are a couple of aspects to that. So yes, we are at SID every year since our inception. We've been there. We also been showcased in iZone. So it's this place for the most let's say ambitious and innovative demos of SID, and we've been showcased there last year. So yes, we're very much at the forefront there, and one of the reasons behind that, and great supporters of ours, is someone that probably some of your viewers might be familiar with. His name is Sri Peruvemba. He's our advisor, and he's been able to boost our profile and our visibility on the market tremendously, because we are a technology company from Central and Eastern Europe, which doesn't always get the best press, but the technology is solid. What we lacked like 2 years ago were the network effects, the connections, and Sri has been able to open some of the doors for us. But also when we entered the public space, let's say, for example, on OLED info, we had tremendous interest from the market, from the biggest of players. You know the names. I cannot disclose them, but you go into any electronic store and you know most of them, because we are in talks with almost 50 different companies, from huge to small. And one of the reasons behind that also, and you can perhaps go back to this this graph that I shown, is because currently the material space is actually a monopoly. The second generation emitters are so the red-green ones are almost entirely provided to the display manufacturers by a company called UDC, so Universal Display Corporation, that's quoted on NASDAQ. And the first generation is, after so many years, more or less a commodity, but still there are only a handful of manufacturers of these emitters. And so currently, LGs and Samsungs of this world are complaining because they have something that you might call a vendor lock-in, right? There's only 1 or 2 suppliers in the world of that technology. But going into the 3rd and 4th generation, we are actually this one of the few independent alternatives out there. The 2 other companies that are at the forefront of this race to bring that technology to the market already have investments from LG and Samsung, which means that everyone else on the market is scared that they will have to, experience this vendor lock-in for another decade or 2. They're, because of that, simply because of that, they're very keen on starting a conversation with that. And having that open doors, we can show how good the technology is itself.
So how can you show this? What do you show?
So the process usually works like this. There is like a molecule design, then you have to manufacture it, and once you have the emitter, the molecules, the materials, you send them to a lab. In our case, we have a partner, our own part of a Korean lab, where they're tested in near industry standards, or the type of devices on a small scale. Once we have those, we go to a third party, let's say research institution, and let me share my screen perhaps right now. These are the type of institutions that we are actually working with. So the one in the middle on the right hand side, Kyung-Hee University. Sorry to all the Asian speakers, I probably butchered it, but our lab is there working with to bring these devices to the market. But once we have that, our own lab gives us a good result, we give them to a third party like E3, so Industrial Technology Research in Taiwan, or KIT in Karlsruhe. And they have this third-party independent review of our results, and with those results, we go into conversations with different partners, and we start joint development projects with them, basically. Once they are convinced that the parameters that we achieve are good enough. And only then this 24-month period or window is open, as I mentioned. These implementation of this technology takes quite a while.
So we've got a question from SP95. Will you be able to improve near dark performance compared to today's OLEDs with your technology? Today's OLEDs are clipping to pure black too shortly.
I'm not a technical person, so I don't want to, mislead you in that aspect. What I can tell you with utmost certainty, the technology that we bring to the table shortens, has a very narrow emission peak, which allows you to steer with the colors, more precisely. And if I understand it correctly, the issue with blackness of the screen or darkness of the screen is also the issue of how do you emit light in the screen. Either you have pixels that are shining or glowing, emitting light, or you have a back plane that then filters out the light. So once you have the back plane, of course the screen will be brighter as general. So depending on probably what the building technology for the device itself is used, this is where your answer lies. But again, I'm not a technical person. I probably already overstepped my confidence in that answer here.
It says more precision should help with the near dark performance. That's the comment right here. What are we looking at here on this slide? What
here is actually the building blocks of a device. So every device is built from one of the things. If you would smash your smartphone, you'll see an OLED module. So basically a screen, and this screen is built of small diodes, and every single diode is built from very thin layers of the stack, OLED stack. And the OLED stack today is between 15 and 20 different layers of materials. With our technology, not only we can make them some of those layers, as I mentioned, more efficient, and this is the core of our technology, but also we can limit a number of layers by probably around 5. So we can go from 20 to 15 or from 15 to 10 layers, which will make, of course, the screen, the module much more flexible if it has less layers. So, responding to your question, what you're looking here is you're seeing the building blocks of every device, and how you at the beginning you have the chemical compound synthesized in the laboratory. This is what you get. It's not many people understand the fact that OLED screens, no matter if they're transparent or not, or flexible or not, are built from around 20 or 15 layers of different organic materials.
And if I go here to the next slide.
Okay, so here you'll see problems with current generations of emitters. So there are two generations that are already being used. So the first generation is only right now used for blue color, and it's simply energy inefficient. Only 1 in 4, it has only 25% energy efficiency. 3 out of 4 excited electrons are not emitting light there. So this is why this technology has to be improved upon. This is actually the biggest hurdle or the holy grail for a company like ours to introduce to the market a new generation of blue emitter. I've already covered the burn-in effect, but the burn-in effect comes partially from a use of heavy metals in the molecule structure, because when you use heavy metals in those molecules, those, how do you call it in English? I'm sorry, I'm not a native speaker after all. The links between heavy metals and the rest of molecules are less stable than in a purely organic compound. So that's why after some time, these connections break, and this is what causes the burn-in effect.
All right.
That's why you haven't seen probably, at the risk of repeating myself, you haven't seen a laptop with OLED screen. Of course, you've seen probably, because there are like one or two prototypes out there, but not in the mass scale. Because if you'll use any text editor and you give it to a person that spends 8 hours a day at the text editor, or any type of fixed, let's say, frame on a screen, that person probably within a year would have a burned-in like Excel file on their screen.
This is why the new ARM-powered MacBooks, the M1 Pro and the M1 Max MacBooks, are using mini LED LCDs, because Apple wouldn't want to have like 5 million people returning their MacBooks after a couple of years if it burns in, right?
Exactly. So and probably I haven't done the market research on that, but probably this is the reason why only the high-end TVs are using also OLEDs, because these people will change those TVs before the burn-in effect happens, because these are the people that are following the trends, right? But most of the users are will notice the burn-in effect.
Most users would want to keep their TVs for 10 years.
Oh, yeah. So after 10 years, you bet you'll have some burn-in with current generation of materials.
So you're solving that. That's a big deal.
We're definitely helping. As I said, it's the burn-in is not only because of that, but it's a big chunk of it, yes.
And here's the solution, a new generation of emitters.
So the new type of materials that we bring to the table, because they're fully organic, they don't have any heavy metals and so on and so forth. So they don't have those issues caused by that. So the burn-in effect is limited or none. The device operation time is longer, because we have like 100% of excited electrons emitting light, and because we don't have these expensive iridium and platinum used in the device, the production cost is lower, or our margin will be higher. We'll see.
It's so exciting to see the printed OLEDs come, but always the question is, how soon are these big multi-billion-dollar companies going to put $1 billion in the next gen? How quickly do you think that can happen? Are you hopeful that what you are talking about is happening very quickly, or do we have to wait like half a decade or a decade?
Okay, so I told you that I'm not a technical person. Actually, I'm a finance guy by training. So by a simple, it's not about technology. I believe it's not about technology, because if they want it, they would bring that technology to the market in 2-3 years. But they invested billions of dollars in currently, the vapor deposition type of technology. And from an accounting standpoint, they have to recoup the costs that they've incurred. So decades for a widespread use of printed OLEDs, absolutely. I'm not talking, about the, first prototypes, first type of devices, because these they come to the market quite soon. But when it comes to, every smartphone being printed rather than built in the vapor deposition technology, it will take a decade or so, because they've just build these huge and expensive production plants right now. So they will wait a decade for to recoup this cost. It's again, it's not a question of technology. I'm sorry to say, unless of course there is a new player, because as you know, the display world is fairly concentrated. I imagine that, for example, OLED, that is at the forefront of the printing revolution, might grow into another LG or Samsung. So perhaps this revolution, after all, is not that far away. But if you count on the guys that already poured billions of dollars into the ground and built those plants, they won't shift anytime soon.
There's a comment that might explain why OLED panels are not used that often. So it's hard to become one of the huge guys, right? To dominate the market. Sometimes there's like a Burj Khalifa in front of you. Like it's hard to jump over.
Yes, and again, because OLEDs are currently used in mostly smartphones. Let's make it obvious. Like, most of the money comes from smartphones right now and high-end type of devices. There are only a handful of companies that use them on the device side. All the other OLED devices are fairly basic, like medical devices with some OLED panel. That they're fairly simple. For the most exciting displays, there's only like Apples of this world that use them, and they're like free companies. And until they change their mindset and they want the revolution to happen, the display manufacturers won't bother and won't invest in the new wave.
But one has to think that there should always be a disruptor just around the corner who really wants to disrupt the market and who's ready to jump on something new, even if it costs $5 billion, even if the established one, that should be kind of like the way things work, right?
Absolutely. And that's why, despite the fact that most of the money right now in the display world is in the vapor deposition, printing, like manufacturing technology, and we of course are there, and we're providing materials for that, we have abandoned the inkjet printed world, because we see so much potential there. Actually, the most exciting prototypes and most exciting uses for OLED technology comes from the printed world, not from the vapor deposition world.
So when we look at your slide, there's a couple slides on the kind of like the timeline.
Yes.
So this one, and
there are a couple of them. This shows a development of the company itself. Here, you have like a half of the story told. So at the beginning, we had Syntex Technologies. As I mentioned, we've played around with this technology, but only in 2019, Noctiluca was a spin out of it, and we invited some of the seed funds to join the journey. That allowed us this money from seed funding allowed us to protect our IP, of course, and get to a first joint development project. And this joint development project, hopefully, as I mentioned, will bring results in the form of widely available on the market product with our technology implemented early next year. After that, after this point in time that you see on the slide here, somewhere a little bit later. Oh, if you
take the next slide.
I'll show you my screen probably, and
this one, yeah.
That's the. So once we had this first joint development project, we've been able to attract some of the leading thought leaders, let's say, in that space. So Sri Peruvemba, and that was a huge helped us in this huge business development space. And again, we launched a lab in Korea where Professor Kwon, as our technical advisor, has been able to skyrocket us into the technology leap. And along the way, this first joint development project is actually in the inkjet printed space. So the first use of our technology will be in the inkjet printed space. And that forced us actually to innovate a lot. And today, our materials in the third generation of emitters are as good for the inkjet printing as good as the ones that are used for the vapor deposition. And let's stop for a second to understand that a little bit more, because one of the reasons why the printed world hasn't kicked off yet, it's because the materials for that technology were lagging behind the vapor deposition production process. They were 20-30 times less efficient, or with 30 times worse emission properties, and so on and so forth. So we've been able to bridge that gap in just 2 years. So in 2 years, we since the launch of the company, we are able today to say that our materials for the inkjet world are as good as the ones that you can get for the vapor deposition world. And we can do that in all of the colors, so red, green, blue, and yellow, which for someone who intends to print a screen or display is a huge deal. And of course, that led us to on the financial side or the operations side to some capital needs. So we've just raised another round of in the last 24 months around 3.5 million USD, and we are in the process of being listed on Polish Nasdaq. It's called the New Connect, the New Connect Stock Exchange. It's a smaller stock exchange for technology companies in Poland. So we're very much on this trajectory as any deep tech company would like to go. We started in a lab, attracted some seed funding, got our IP positioning and our business, let's say, outlook right, attracted top talent when it comes to both business and technology globally, and going for a stock exchange right now.
Sorry. Could you hear me now? Sorry. Let's take one more question from the chat. Oh, so the yellow emitter is back.
Well,
is that right?
Actually, the first implementation globally, not by us, unfortunately, they've beaten us to that, by one of our competitors, is in the yellow color. So probably yellow color won't be used in displays, like in smartphones or something like that. But in displays that use only one color, there is actually no issue with the using the yellow color as the on a wristband or any type of medical device. So yellow color in the third generation of emitters is actually already on the market. And early next year, we will bring the green color. And as I said, the holy grail is always blue. And we are very much in the forefront of the race there as well.
And if we get through here, management team, key R&D team.
Yes. So I probably won't bore you with details of all of our lives, but on that note, I wanted to perhaps to underline the fact that we've been able to attract some really heavy hitters. Go ahead and check out Sri Peruvemba. He's one of the guys behind E-Ink Corporation. At a certain point of his life, he joined that company as a CMO and been on a journey with them since they had like 20 million USD in revenues to over $1 billion. And this is the technology that we know today as a backbone of a display in the Kindles. So you can't get any better than that when it comes to your business advisor in the display space. Sri has been on the market for over 30 years. So he's seen actually some of the ways of technologies that I mentioned. Also, on the other side, Professor Kwon has been a tremendous help to us because coming up with a new molecule structure, being able to synthesize it, it's quite a feat. It's difficult, but then implementing it into the device, when most of the devices in the world are being produced in Korea or China, is another challenge itself. So Professor Kwon, who's been in the past working with Samsung and with LG, has been able to help us steer towards the more let's say practical applications or practical parameters that we have to focus on. So and after that we've been able to leapfrog probably another year or two in our research, and with Sri on the business side.
Nice.
And hopefully, if you'll have the patience, I'll be able to show you an exciting demo of our product early next year, in hand with some of the printed and flexible solutions.
Around here, Technology Leap, launch of Korea Lab, acceleration of R&D efforts with global research partners.
Exactly.
Going that direction.
This is exactly where we are like right now. Our lab in Korea is growing. Is working on the materials, day and night, and we are also in partnership with ITRI, the Industrial Technology Research Institute from Taiwan. And actually, ITRI, we might not know it, but every scientist in Asia, for every scientist in Asia, it's like MIT of Asia. Basically, it's on one side it's a research institute and it's a gateway to any other commercial partner in Asia, because once ITRI says that something has good parameters, it's game on. And we've been lucky and happy for the fact that they want to engage with us and bring our technology to the market.
And then you have potential partners.
Yes.
How much?
That slide pictures paints the picture of who are we potentially addressing this technology to. So you don't see here Apple or I don't know, any other device manufacturer. You see here either OLED components manufacturers or display manufacturers or some lighting producers. So our technology is very much a key enabling technology for many of those devices to get to the next level, but we're not selling directly to like end customer. It's always like a multi-stage process. And
so without revealing any secrets, but potentially you've been talking with maybe some companies like that.
Most of those listed here and many, many more.
All right.
And I'll put a pin here because they're fairly substantial contractual obligations on our side not to reveal too much. But yes, because of the fact that I mentioned to you that we're independent, we have a very clear like a cap table with like private individuals as investors. We're not posing the threat of vendor lock-in, And our technology is to par or beating the ones of our competitors. I'm sure of that. But even if we were at par or even a little bit worse, we will still be on the market, because there are other companies that want to have this third-party provider of technology as a backup if someone would like to, get the margins a little bit too crazy for them, as it's actually happening right now.
So it says product superiority, best in class RGBY for IGP.
It's printed.
Race in race to hyperfluorescence first gen blue emitter superiority. It sounds cool.
That sounds like a mouthful, but when it comes to this product superiority, what we mean by best in class, red, green, blue, and yellow for inkjet printed is exactly what we've covered. That the properties of our materials for inkjet printed are as good as for vapor deposition. And I don't know if anyone else from companies that we've been talking to on the material side can say that. So definitely this is something that makes us unique. But at the same time, we know that money today is mostly in the PVD space, in the vapor deposition space. So we're definitely chasing that holy grail of blue emitter as well.
So SP95 says he will make electroluminescent car paint with that using the right layers.
It's absolutely possible. Actually, we're a heavy R&D company, and one of the projects that we've been toying around a little bit with is making like an OLED base paint that like if you go to a construction shop or do it yourself shop, you can buy white paint, add some pigment to it, and then you have like pink walls or green walls or whatever. So definitely technically it's possible to have Noctiluca, for example, create at some point in the future like a white base paint, like white color printing ink that you can add some additional pigment to it and then print in other colors with the lighting application. So it's definitely possible. Of course, it's a little bit more complicated than just going to do-it-yourself store and mixing some paint, but yeah, it's on the roadmap.
Are you gonna get more attention than the guy who layered his car with gold? Because you'll be lighting up at night.
Probably we are less shiny than that, or gold appeals to much broader demographic than organic compounds synthesized in the lab. But yeah, just so you know how valuable or what type of how precise materials we're talking about. If you take a 52-inch TV, you use less than 1 gram of our emitters to light it up. So not only ours, any type of emitters. So if you think about the whole world of emissive materials, you need probably a couple of tons of materials like ours to supply 100% of demand in the world right now. So that's why a fairly young and small company from Poland, from European Union, has been able to, with the right people behind it and the right, let's say, technical expertise, has been able to bring such an innovation to the market. Because you don't need like a huge manufacturing capabilities to be able to provide that technology to the market.
And
I think that covers. Yeah, that
so
covers.
People can contact you on this email.
Yes, it's actually one of the board members, Chris, who was supposed to be with me today. But if you just take my first initial of my name and use my surname, so mnovak@noctiluca.eu, you will be able to reach me. So go ahead, reach out. I'll be happy to enter any sort of conversation. Oh, you can forget about that slide.
Okay.
We have, what we do right now, just as a comment to it, just don't show it because it might be misleading at this point, but we not only are able to make light out of organic materials, but also during this discovery phase, before Noctiluca was created, we also played a little bit with dye solar cells for the photovoltaics uses. That's just a background for that slide. But today we are on the side of emitting light, not making electricity from it.
All right. Cool. So thanks a lot for doing this this live presentation remotely. That's cool. And looking forward to.
I understand you were in Dubai right now, right?
Yeah.
You see Polish pavilion at the expo.
Yeah, we were supposed to do our chat directly from the Polish pavilion, but there was a pianist who took over the show. I'll be publishing that video later. Cool.
We lost to Chopin, so I'm good with that.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm sure he would be an investor. Oh, I don't know. No, that's no. Okay, that's weird. Okay, to say. Yeah.
We'll
All right.
see.
Cool.
Okay. Thank you for listening. I'll be happy to take any follow-up questions, or my technical team will answer any curveballs you might throw at them as well. And we're happy to see you in person at some point also.
Cool. Yeah. See you at the next SID Display Week 2022, which gonna definitely happen. Hopefully.
Yeah.
We'll see what happened in the world.
Exactly. And the US travel is already available. Oh, there is some Polish wording popping up. Thank you, SP95.
All right. Cool. Thanks everybody for watching, and see you in the next video. And looking forward to this revolutionary technology.
Bye-bye.
Bye.